Hi, and welcome to another episode of the Mind Management Mentors podcast. I'm Cuddy Cudworth, the host of this. I love podcasts. I love talking to people about their stories. I'm a big believer, and I think belief is a really powerful word. If it's in the mind, it can be managed, and I mean everything can be managed. And we're getting on our guest speakers, and today we've got a mental performance coach, and I'm so excited. I'm not going to introduce you. I'm going to let you introduce yourself. Go for it.
Yeah, so I'm Dwayne Morton. First of all, thanks for having me, Cuddy. I
It's all right,
appreciate it.
man.
So I'm Dwayne Morton. I'm a former international basketball player. I have been through a couple of obstacles that are very unlikely and untimely. I have was diagnosed with a rare blood cancer at 29, and so even with my strong mindset, that actually was a really dark moment, really tough moment. And then, another one of my experiences I had was 2.5 years ago. I was a bystander in a police shooting, and so we'll talk about that too. Um, and so, um, and then we'll talk about like my mindset when I found out that I was misdiagnosed. I found that out last year, March of 2024, and so there's these three arcs that really changed my mindset. But when I got healthy, it was like, oh, I'm ready to go. It was like it's like the wind up toy. I got winded up and they were holding it and holding it and holding it. And then when I found out I was healthy and all I had was sleep apnea, it was just like, oh, let go. And then, I'm off the races. But, one of the big things for me was I had to take care of myself. Self care is a huge thing with the mindset. And so, as soon as I found out I was misdiagnosed, I went ahead and done the self care, done the healing part. And, then that's what led me to reach out to Cuddy and us have a conversation, and this is why I'm here. So yeah, I'm looking forward to it, my friend.
Dwayne, I love it. Right, so Dwayne, we're going to start with some real basics. Tell me, Dwayne, whereabouts in the world are you? I've worked in America for many years. I used to work as a cruise director for Royal Caribbean. So I'm guessing it's kind of Denver way-ish, kind of. But you tell me, whereabouts are you from?
No,
Am I
man.
wrong? Boston.
No, no, no. So like I'm not from a big city at all. I'm actually from a rural town in Western Kentucky. So most people don't really know where Kentucky is unless we mention Kentucky Derby or basketball, or if you're a bourbon fan, usually, so I'm about 3 hours from Bourbon. I used to live in Louisville, which was about 45 minutes from where most people would, from like where Maker's Mark and stuff like that. And yeah, so go ahead.
Oh, because I'm a basketball nut. So
Yeah.
Kentucky and Louisville are generally good in the NCAA in March Madness.
Yes, sir. And so that's the thing is, yes, I grew up love basketball, which is one of my passions. I mean, like one of my really big passions. And so, I was just like any other Kentucky born boy. I was out there shooting basketball out in my backyard. So yeah. And so, we have really good high school basketball teams, and it's kind of funny. My path to getting to overseas, I actually didn't play my last 2 years of high school. I actually quit because my grandmother passed away right before the season, and I didn't know how to deal with death, so I just quit. And so I went back out my senior year, got cut again, and it was just because I quit. Like so, that was the other thing. It was an early part of my mindset where it was like, oh, I got labeled as a quitter. Well, I'm going to show them. And so I just kept getting better and better and better. And then, I got an opportunity. I got to go play basketball with on a mission trip overseas. And so that's how I got overseas. And then, I signed with an agent. And then, unfortunately, I hurt my left knee and I had to have surgery. So I felt like I hit my ceiling with basketball. And then I was just ready to go try to accomplish something else in life.
So Kentucky and Louisville, are you close? Now I know Smallville is not a place, right? Obviously, I'm
Yeah.
a Superman nut, but are we talking the same part of America?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So,
Smallville, right? Is that way?
yeah, so Louisville and Louisville are the same thing. It's just they're pronounced different. The way that us Kentuckians, we call it Louisville, and so and that's not everybody pronounces it different. We just have different accents. And so that's how I pronounce it. And so I'm near another college, which if your listeners are familiar with John Morant and his
Right? Yeah,
unbelievable
yeah.
story. Yeah.
Memphis Grizzlies.
So he plays for the Grizzlies, right? Well, he went to college in right about 15 minutes from my hometown. So yeah. So like with Murray State. And so I'm a huge Murray State fan. So
Fantastic. Now, when I say Smallville, I mean Superman Smallville, which is a made-up town in America. But is Smallville technically Louisville?
no, no, no. Louisville's actually a metropolis. I think there's like a million, probably a couple of million now people there. Um, but where I live, man, like I think there's about 5,000 people in that area, and I live in a village outside of it. So, I see houses when I go outside my house, but it's pretty remote.
Yeah. So we are going to talk about mental toughness, mental performance, and there was two things that stood out about your story. I was like, we absolutely need to talk about that because I'm sure it happens an awful lot, especially in America. We don't have a gun culture in the UK. So talk to me about how long ago was the shooting and the drive-by shooting that you were a bystander of, and what happened? Tell me, deep dive that.
Yeah, so it wasn't a drive-by shooting. What happened was I was driving by on the
Ah,
highway,
right.
the
Okay,
highway.
perfect.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So, what happened was a criminal, they the police missed a search, and somehow a criminal had a hidden gun. He was detained. Um, he was out front with the officers being questioned. He took a hidden gun uh out of his trousers, out of his shorts. I'm not really sure. And he ended up shooting an officer point blank. And then him and the other officer were in a shootout. And somehow through that, as I was driving by, I got caught up in the crossfire of it. And so gun culture in America is, I mean, it is what it is. Like, and when I say that is like, it's accessible. It's accessible for a reason. And, with our Second Amendment, and I believe that the problem is like we have a lot of people who don't respect life. That I feel like that's the issue. I don't believe it's a gun. I don't take a hammer and if I hit my hand or my thumb, I mean like I don't sit there and say it's the hammer's fault. No, it's like it's the person wielding the hammer. Same thing same thing with a sword, back in the day. If somebody cut somebody's arm off, like we didn't chastise the sword. Like I think that part is an agenda part, and not really hit the root cause. And especially when we're talking about mind management, you know, there's things that people do to get their uh, point across and get their agenda across. And so, for me, I am a proud owner. I'm a hunter. I grew up respecting guns. Excuse me. And so I think that was, I feel like, that's different. And I feel like a lot of people around me, that's probably 95% of gun owners. And so that was one of the reasons that I really didn't say too much about it was because everybody wanted to attach me to some agenda. And so the shooting happened, and what I'll tell you about it is there's a C pillar of the where the hood and the bed meet of the truck. And then that metal is about that wide, and it's about that wide, and it's like the bullet hit that, and if it would have been an eighth of an inch to the left, it would have took me out. If it would have been an eighth of an inch to the right, it would have took out my little niece who was 3 years old at the time. So truly, I was driving 45 mile an hour. So I mean, truly a miracle happened that day, in which all foreseen, you know, I would absolutely take that scenario rather than the scenario of that eighth of an inch, either to the left or right. So I feel like that was also part of it, being grateful, being grat. I believe I live in a place of gratitude. I've lived in a place of gratitude for a very long time. It actually goes back to a story when I was 19 and I was playing basketball overseas. I met a kid who was 5 years old who hadn't eaten in 3 days. And so through that, I never had to worry about, in my lifetime, I've never had to worry about those three essential things: food, water, or shelter. And so it actually humbled me. I believe that experience helped me push through the experiences that I've had, the bad ones, and let me know that, hey, other people go through worse. And, the other thing, Cuddy, is like I had to work through it and make sure that this wasn't out of guilt because I had more that, I was guilty. Like, I don't feel like it was that, but there's times in my life I might have used that guilt to like push me through. And so, um, you know, that was part of the healing process that I went through last year, is to get rid of that guilt, to get rid of these different parts of the mindset that like I had used, especially as an athlete, because honestly, as athletes, we get looked at differently, and we also look at ourselves differently. I have an insane amount of self discipline over some of the other people, and that's because of my athletics. Um, but yeah, so all these experiences had something kind of tied to them. And so, it's like when I got misdiagnosed, or, when I first got diagnosed, I looked at it as, hey, other people are like getting diagnosed with like 2 weeks to live. Like I got 15 years. So, I looked at it as like a blessing, and, I was just grateful. And so I think if you live in that gratitude space, that's where all the magic happens. And even as I heal, like I really want to live in the present as much as possible, but also I want to live in that gratitude space too. So,
So I mean, I don't even know if congratulations for getting through a gunshot is a word that I should even be used. But wow, first of all, wow, well done, and especially with your niece in the car as well, or the truck. I'm sure you'll say a truck, not a car. Um,
yeah.
and gratitude is a power. It is a powerful. And it's funny how you mentioned guilt, because a lot of people, we get stuck in that lower vibration of the emotions that keep us, and they do drive us, and we can use our emotions to drive us forward, whether it is, and you said a great reference there of how I use that guilt to move me forward instead of getting stuck in that guilt. Because I know when I've worked with clients, and a lot of people say, well, I always feel so guilty. And I think what a lot of people, the transference with guilt is when we get stuck in guilt, we're shining a torch of somebody else's unpleasantness, and we're shining it on us. And when we use that, we that's when it becomes a bad drive, because we're taking somebody else's guilt and it shines on us. So we start taking on other people's guilt, and that can be really negative for people. So Dwayne, well done for not doing that. That's amazing. Well done. And that is a powerful mental performance thing. So let's talk about the misdiagnosis, because that would shatter anybody's. And I know you said, well, I got given 15 years, but how often do we get misdiagnosed something? It becomes part of our identity. It starts creating those cycles of those negative, disempowering emotions. So talk us through that, Dwayne, for the misdiagnosis and how that came about.
Yeah. So, um, man, I was actually in a pretty good spot, like physically. I had just kind of declined. I had actually hurt my knee. So I was kind of taking some time off. I usually run about 2 miles a day. Actually, the day before I had the episode, I had just ran 2 miles like the day before. And it was a tough 2 miles. So it was like, oh, I need to run more because I haven't, um, and so I struggled getting up 3 flights of stairs. That's when I knew something was wrong. And so I went to the doctor, went through the process, and something in my blood work showed up. And he was like, okay, I want you to come back in a week. Let's check this out. Went back. They were like, man, you're dehydrated. There was just a couple of things that just they didn't pan out. They didn't look right. So I got sent to an oncologist, which is a cancer doctor for some of the people who aren't familiar. And so he told me, he was like, I believe you have this blood disease. And then this blood disease ends up going into this blood cancer. And he didn't tell me that I had, 15 years, of course, the very first time. And like, honestly, it came from a primary doctor that, I became really good friends with. He was like, if you want the real truth, this is what it is. Like, so I was 29, man. And so my mindset was like, hey, I don't want to have a wife and kids, and I don't want to put any more burden on someone else. And so, but my mindset for the first 4 to 5 years was like, hey, let's turn this around. Let's figure a way out. And so I did anything and everything I could to change. Um, I went from drinking, soda, um, to not, I even dabbled with going to a vegetarian diet. That really didn't work out for me too well. I stayed with it for about 3 months, and it just, all these things just didn't work. And the reason they didn't work is because I didn't have that. That's what it comes down to. But like I would just like, okay, I'm going to try this because I wanted to get better. And unfortunately, we didn't look at, I did have a sleep apnea um, test. It was an at home test. And I don't know those results because I haven't been able to find them in my medical records. But I did have a test. It just didn't come out. I wish that they would have said, let's go to a sleep center. But, truly, here's the thing, Cuddy, is like if I would have talked to you probably 3 months ago, I wouldn't said this. But I was thinking that these things happened to me. Like they happened to me. But truly, Cuddy, the page turned and I was able, once I was able to put it into these things happened for me, and that these things happened to get me to where I am right now, to get me on shows and podcasts like yourself, to get things like my nonprofit, up and running, to get me into my signature program. Like I would have spent years and years and years of really just working really hard and maybe just barely hit that, just tap the true potential of what I have now. That I went through some adversity. I've had to overcome some really bad, not great circumstances. But dude, I got I have two powerful stories that put me in what you would call the tier one category, where there's not many people that have been misdiagnosed and have went through a police shooting or so that's the thing is like once I flipped that switch, that was where I believe that like that's where my power came in. I empowered myself, and then I got like one of the things I will tell you also is I believe in supporting people, like truly supporting people. I think there's a now. So this is the analogy I use all the time. Is I don't want twigs around. Okay, like I don't want wooden twigs that are just leaning in on my iron support while I hold all the weight, And so you get people that say, "Hey, I support you," but like they're wooden twigs. Like let's be honest, like they don't really support you. They're just there, like they're by your iron beam. And so once I realized that, like I was the one holding all the weight, and then I found friends that had other iron beams, and they were came to help me. And so that's what happened, man. Is like through these experiences, I've met some incredible people that I would not have been able to meet. And so I truly believe those experiences happened for me so I can meet those type of people. And so, I could get into the elite level of uh, people that were my frequency.
I think that so for anyone that's listening, you're talking about the different states of consciousness. You're talking about the frequencies that we vibrate on, and we're talking about how we can perceive the world. So that where everything that's happened to us happened to us for a reason. It's not happening to me because that takes us away from the victim mindset. So you've elevated. How long do you feel you were stuck in the victim mindset?
Oh, I was stuck in the victim mindset probably for a while. I think I don't even know how long. Like I haven't even, I know with the shooting, I was there for a long time.
Yeah.
Even after, so the other thing is like I discovered hypnosis in, I think it was May or June. And that really is what helped me. That's what I had been through talk therapy, which is a huge thing here over in America, is like just talk, talk, talk. And for me, it was like, man, I really just want to get over it. I don't want to have to deal and deal and deal. And so here's the thing, Cuddy, is like I have been so blessed by how um, we'll say God, the creator, we'll say source, we'll mention, for for all these other people and their spiritual beliefs. I'm a very spiritual person. I've met so many incredible people. And so one of my friends, she's one of like the world renowned leaders in quantum therapy and quantum healing. And so I actually have an app that I'll tell you guys about. It's called Empower Me. That it's a free app, and so there's actually a subscription to it if you want it the whole thing unlocked. But those things like that I was able to these tools that I wasn't aware of. So that's how I got out of that victim mentality. So I still probably had a little bit even as I was going through this, but truly in November, that's where, it just went away. Like I got to a healing place where it's just like, hey, I'm tired of suffering and I'm ready to do, and I'm ready to, own up to, my limiting beliefs. And like we all have those. And, it's just, let's be aware of them, right? When you're more aware of them, you're able to like at least put them to the side and keep them where you pet them and stuff like that. And the same thing with my ego. Like I'm not ego driven, I'm very purpose driven, but I still have an ego like as anyone else. And so I just try to keep it to the side. I say, hey, like, yeah, we did this, like, but that's it. And once I got those two things kind of in control, um, everything became easier. That's the other thing. Is like everything become easier. Everything was lighter. Everything was um I'll use it wasn't just lighter, it's just everything sped up. And as you know, through manifesting, I know like that I started really studying it in July and August, and I started finding out about my human design and things like that. And so I started really looking at different tools that other people gave me. And so whenever I would get a tool, I wouldn't just say, no, I don't want to look at this. And so I just kept like, I like to call myself Batman. He has that cool utility belt. So I have all these tools to help heal. And so I'm, getting on top of the mountain and I'm telling people and I'm yelling and I'm being like, one of my friends went through hypnosis and did not tell me about it. I had to discover it on my own. And so I was really upset about that because like here in America, it's a very taboo subject. And honestly, it shouldn't be.
What,
It's a,
hypnosis?
yes.
Hypnosis is a taboo subject in America.
I mean, yeah, like it's not something that a lot of people talk about like freely. That's the thing, is like they might tell a friend, but like they don't just go out and say, "Hey, I did hypnosis," or they don't, I have a friend who's a master hypnotist, and like you would think that that guy, for what he's able to, do for people, that he would be covered up with, with people, and he's not. And the reason why is because people are, there's people who just like they don't want to believe it, and I think they don't want to believe it because they don't want to change, and that could be part of it too. Is that this is that culture where people just don't want to change, and instead of just saying, "Hey, I don't want to change that," they're saying, they're going after hypnosis.
Do you not find, and this is more of a personal bias, but do you not find now you've elevated? So I was in the victim mindset too years ago, years and years and years ago. Actually, it was something that failed in my life, and I didn't realize I was stuck in that downward spiral. And I didn't know that my emotions affected everybody around me. So I didn't know, and I'm a big guy. I'm 6'2". I'm 4 feet wide. And I didn't realize the impact that my emotions were putting out into the world. How I was putting, and it was actually tough love from a wife. And she said, whatever you're going through, you need to get sorted because it's starting to affect me. And I was like, how is that even possible? But that was the vibration. That was what I was putting out into the world because I was stuck in that victim mindset. And look, for anyone listening to this, I think victim mindset can often be misunderstood. And a lot of people are like, well, I'm not a victim of anything. No, we become a victim because we become a blamer. We become a blamer. It's everybody else. And I used to do talks on cruise ships, and I used to be the kind of person that said, it's not me that's the problem, it's all these 100 people around me. If I can change these 100 people around me, I'll be okay. And that was a thankless task. It was exhausting. And I'm like, no, I need to change around. And that switch, like you said, you had that switch. That switch for me was, oh no, it's me that's got to change. The second I change me, these 100 problems go away. And it was like a weight lifted off the world because it's like, oh, I don't have to change everyone else in the world to make me happy. I'm like, no, I just have to change me. And that switch, and the switch was my wife. It was my wife, and it was tough love. And I just think for anyone that's listening to this, and I can hear where did you learn these kind of things though? Because we have to go searching for things, right? We have to go searching until we're ready to go and search for whoever we need to get through those times to head away from anxiety and depression. We do start elevating up the consciousness scale. And I always try and reference books in this, and I've referenced it before in previous books. Power versus Force is a powerful book, and it will explain the emotional consciousness scales that we get stuck in, and how you say, and we change how these things are meant for me, not for me, is is a powerful change. It's a powerful change for people, and that's. But what was the defining moment for you where the light bulb came on and goes, ah, shit, I'm the one that needs to change?
Yeah, so it was gradual. But also it was friends led me to other friends, and other friends like told me a little bit more about this like piece of the puzzle. So for me, there's a story I'll share. I went to a leadership summit that had some really great online marketers, influencers, just unbelievable amount of really great people. And it the, you know it was just a leadership summit, but it's called the Breakthrough. And so the first speaker, he's a real good friend of mine, Martin Lopez. He's a mindset coach, and he actually had like 20 minutes reserved, and he only spoke for 5 minutes. And he asked who was there for a breakthrough, and I was there. I love personal development, so I raised my hand. I was like, "Hey," I was like, "I'm dealing with these two things," and I shared these two things. I got emotional. I usually don't get like super emotional, but like Eric Thomas is a huge inspiration for me, a huge motivator. Like he's a great speaker. And so I remember one thing Eric Thomas talks about is lean in. And for some reason, little Eric Thomas on my shoulder, he said lean in. And so I did, and I met this community. And so one of the biblical references that I talk about is how, out in the desert, and you're just sitting there looking for water. Like that was the same thing, man. And what happened was I ended up leaning in and found this great community. And so I found these great people who kind of helped me. And this, I'll tie this in, but like I also want to share this is like as soon as I leaned in, I found that community. And then the next week, one of my bucket list items was to meet Eric Thomas. And so I was able to meet Eric Thomas through this group. And so I've met some really great friends through the group. That's the other thing. And so, um, but I met some really great people that gave me a piece of the puzzle, and then was like, "Hey, you should go talk to this person." And so that's how I ended up finding my, quantum healing friend, Victoria Rader, who's amazing. And so, she's going to actually be in a movie with Dr. Joe Vitale here in February. So, I just know her as my friend. And so what happened was when I started seeing how she was as renowned, and how other people were, talking about her and respecting her, and how, she had been on podcasts and stuff. And so how I got out of that victim mindset is I had someone tell me, like, and it wasn't someone close to me. It was actually just a friend. And they're like, "Hey, this shooting, I know it sucks. This misdiagnosis, I know it sucks." And so it really, the finger pointed right back to me. And so I was able to make those changes once, but I had to be aware. That's the other thing I wanted to say. I was aware. And the other thing is like, I've been very blessed with my mindset coach is an amazing, amazing mindset coach. And she's not somebody that like she's not going to tear you apart. That's the thing. And everything's out of love. And she like, if you want to go here, you have to start here, and you have to take that step. You just don't get to go here. And she was like, once she actually showed that she was for me and not, looking to exploit me. That was the other thing is like, I feel like I'm looked at as like the next coming influencer, from the way that people act. And, truly like, that's not my jam. I'm not trying to be, uh, trying to do this for fame or anything like that. So I'm very purpose driven. And I believe that was part of it. It was like, once I found out that like I can inspire people and not have to be like, "Oh, it's all about me. I'm a spotlight person." Cause I'm definitely not that spotlight person. I mean, I, the other thing is like I had someone tell me, they were like, you're like, dude, are you a speaker or a coach? And I'm like, nah, I'm not. And like, then I realized like, oh yeah, I have these gifts. I just didn't, and I had these gifts and talents. I just had been practicing basketball, and I was thought that like, hey, that was my talent. It truly wasn't my talent. It wasn't the only talent I had. These are God gifts that I was given. And so, I feel like I would be a I would be one of the worst type of people if I left this earth and I didn't do something because I'm scared. And that's what stops people most of the time, is just that fear. And like, fear is good. Like, keeps you safe, right? But we don't live in that world where it's just survival mode. If we would live like back in the caveman days, we would be fine. Because, if we saw a bear, hey, we need to get out, but we've had to like, through civilization, we made things a lot more complex. And so our DNA, our survivor code and stuff doesn't, that's why we have these limiting beliefs and things. And so, we talk about programming and those type of things, but really, if we've kind of got a little bit too complex, nobody was worried about public speaking back in the caveman days. Like, nobody worried about that kind of stuff.
That's very true. So, Dwayne, I, do you ever reckon, because we self-awareness is a big part. Do you ever recognize I know what my indicator for where I am on the conscious level. It's for me, it's always my internal conversation. My internal conversation tells me where I am emotionally. So if I'm a little bit more, and this is a Scottish word, but if I'm a bit more crabbit in here, I'm like, nah, I'm dehydrated, I need to sleep. I'm like, nah, nah. So my internal conversation and my internal voice, the monkey mind, I call it the monkey mind, lets me know where I am emotionally. What's the self-awareness trick you have for yourself and for anyone listening to recognize whether you're going up or you're coming down the scale, the consciousness scale?
So I have a friend of mine that keeps me in check, and
Ha!
no, I mean, I'm serious. I have a group of friends that like, they're very consciously aware, but also like, like, I have a pack with them, and I'm like, hey, I was like, if I get too big, like, let me know. If I get, if I come off wrong, like, let me know. And like, I want those checks to be outward, but also I'm checking myself every day. Every day I wake up, man, I check for myself. And so the day that I wake up and I don't do these three things, so I call these Dwayne's daily plan of attack. And we have to name it. We have to have some signature stuff. But it's really very three simple. It's actually four very simple uh, tasks. The first one is just gratitude. So I think God, source, whatever you want to call it, as for giving me the day. So for waking me up. Number two is I stretch in the because with basketball I've been beat up. So in my bed I always stretch. And so self-care. So those are those two very important things, gratitude and self-care. And then number three, I get up and I take these two large steps where um, I don't have the knee pain in my left knee because of quantum healing. So that's been pretty amazing. And so that's actually been not a couple of weeks since that's happened. But I plant my left knee and my right knee down. And so throughout the day, it's just the constant part of left foot, right foot, left foot, right foot. So when I feel like I got stuck, I just want to handle that momentum. And then my other thing, so it's adaptability. And so I'll kind of put those two together. I take a runner's mentality to life. I'm focused on left foot, right foot, left foot, right foot. And so as a runner, I don't run looking backwards. I just don't. Like, I can take a glance. So my depression part changed because I, instead of looking and staring at it, I look at it as from a runner's mentality's approach. Same thing with my destination. I don't know where my destination is, so I just need to search, find the direction. That's really it. So I don't worry about anxiety or being anxious because I'm not too worried about the future. The future will get me where I need to be. I don't really have to worry. I just need to move left foot, right foot. But number four is adaptability. So as a runner, we have things that are like potholes and we have life obstacles, and those things pop up. So I just need to be able to swerve to the left or to the right. That's it. Left or the right. And then that's it. And so Dwayne's daily plan attack. If I don't do those things, then those are self checks for me to know, hey, I'm off balance.
Love it. So, thank you so much for sharing, but I've got a really important question, Dwayne.
Absolutely. Let's go.
This one's going to cut deep.
Okay. Let's go.
Who's the GOAT? Is it Michael Jordan or LeBron James?
It's Michael Jordan. It's
It
Michael
is
Jordan.
Michael Jordan, but why is it Michael Jordan? Tell me
He has
why.
six. Man, he has six rings. That right there, six rings. And if you look at like his ability, what he's done with culture. I mean, the way he's done shoes, the way he's just so it's even the extra stuff. But the six rings, his mentality, the way he brought certain players to a different level. But he also stayed on the same team until he decided to hang it up and come back. So like I'm a huge Laker. The other thing I was gonna say, I'm a huge Lakers fan. So I'm really
Bill?
happy that no. So that's what I was about to say. I am not a LeBron fan, and I I love him for what he is. He's a great player, great player. I don't like the way he plays. Like I wish he was had a little bit more Michael Jordan or Kobe mentality. You know, to me he's too passive and like there's other people in basketball. This is the beautiful thing about basketball. It's subjective. People have their own opinion, and then we can have these topics and we can have a conversation. So I love sports. It's like so for me, like you know, we could with soccer, like I'm a huge Ronaldo fan for in the '90s. Like I thought he was the greatest footballer for a while. Like I thought that he was going to be, you know, like instead of talking about Pele, we were talking about him. And then you know, Messi hops up and like someone asked me the other day, like who do you like better? And I'm like, who do I like better? Who do I prefer? Yeah, I'm a Ronaldo guy, and I'm a Ronaldo guy because you know, I lived in Brazil for a while, and so, but like I would be a fool to say Messi's not better though. And that's what I'm saying. These LeBron fans are they should just like understand that he's cut up short until he gets a six ring. Like I don't even feel like we can have this conversation. So
You
thanks for
know,
bringing that up.
I was reading about something about LeBron James, and I thought it was fascinating that the LeBron James is a stellar family man, never stepped out on his wife, always given back to charity, has been able to create this legacy from the sidelines that people don't talk about enough. And I
Yeah,
think that's admirable for LeBron James. But no, I am a diehard MJ. I grew up watching MJ, so everything was always MJ. And you know, I got a lot of my mindset, believe it or not, from MJ because I always remember Jordan's um one of the videos that I got. He got cut from school, so we used to get the video. We got the VHSs in the UK,
yep.
so I used to go and buy all the Michael Jordan VHSs and things like that because I was basketball wasn't a big thing when I was growing up, but I always followed basketball. And I remember his story is that he got cut from school and he went back the year after, taller, better, bigger, and that was his whole mantra for understanding failure. And I think all through my life, you take on these quirks, you model successful people, and Michael Jordan is one of them. So let's talk about the show. Is it show up the show up to win? Talk
Yeah,
to me about the
absolutely.
show up to win, Dwayne.
Yeah, so that is my slogan for everything. I tell people all the time, I don't just show up. I show up to win. And so I use that Michael Jordan mentality of like it's not just showing up and doing things half-assed just don't work for me. Like I show up and I'm prepared and I'm willing to go that extra mile that other people. So I tell people I'm willing to do what other people are unwilling to do.
Yeah,
Like that's always been one of my big things. So and the other part of that aspect is part of the show up to win attitude is I practice like it's a championship game, so the championship games only feel like practice. And so that's the mentality I have. And so show up to win is for athletes and ex-athletes who have gone through some type of adversity. And so they're going up the hill and they're just like they need that extra push, they need that extra help to get up to the top of the hill. So, I've overcome two really untimely and unlikely circumstances. And so I'm giving people my tools so they're able to take those and get them over the hump. But also, I've also implemented this where they build their own program. They build their own playbook. And I feel that's important because guess what? My tools might be really powerful for me if I use, the first three. But Cuddy, man, maybe you didn't like the second one, but you really love the fourth one. So I'm empowering them to be like, hey, this playbook was designed for Dwayne. Let's design a playbook for Cuddy. Let's design a playbook for someone else. Now, we'll use and run my plays, but like if you don't want to use that play, that's fine. And I mean, it's the same thing with like any self-help book. If you follow those self-help books word for word and you do all those things, you probably are going to get where you need to get. But it's usually what happens is we usually change it up and we usually pick and choose, and that's
Pick and
usually
choose
why
what's
it doesn't work as well as how the author is. So same thing with my program is I've already got this idea that you're not going to take 100% of the material. You're probably going to take 95%. And so we're just building your own playbook. So that'll be the end process is like you're going to be creating your own playbook, and that's what you're going to live your life by. But this is what I tell people why I created Show Up to Win. Show Up to Win was created because when I was going through my misdiagnosis, I was looking for that type of program. So here's the thing. Me and you are athletes, Cuddy. So here's the thing. If the minimum is 10, I don't freaking ever do the minimum. Like I just don't. Like when they were telling me to do leg raises when I had my knee surgery, they were like, just do like 50 a day. Okay. Man, I was doing like 150. Like there wasn't no minimum. No, I'm not a minimum person. Sorry. Like if you want minimum, that's cool. Like, but go get somebody else's program. That program is not for you. My program is for the people that want to go a little bit extra, and they want to go extra, not for me, not for the program, but for them damn selves. And that's the big thing.
So we're gonna wrap up, but I wanna finish off with one question because I always think this is kind of a powerful one. When you see somebody where you were, and you know they're in that space of the victim mindset, and you know you've got the tools to help them, but they're not ready yet, what do you do? Dwayne, how do you turn up for them? Do you give them tough love? Do you let them pass by? What's Dwayne's secret sauce for that?
The secret sauce is this: I give them grace. I was there. Like I didn't have. I mean, like I did have some people who were like tough love. Tough love doesn't work all the time, but what really helps is when you're being aware and you're saying, "Hey, I know you're going through a tough time. Like I'm here for you." Like the support, they'll get to where they need to get. I feel like that's the important thing is like let them know that like you're supportive and like they're going through stuff. And I think that's part of the like just love people. Like that's it. Be kind. Like and if they need the hand and they need to be shown the way to like a program or to like, you know, um I it's the same thing that if my friend's an alcoholic, you know, there's eventually where we're going to have an intervention, but like they've got to be aware that it's a problem. They're self-aware of it, but they've somehow have shifted it to something else. Like, oh, I had a bad day at work, or I had this, right? Rather than just, hey, it's this issue. And so I don't have an issue with people who drink. I don't have a problem with alcohol. I believe that's people's choice. But those choices actually have, detrimental effects if you don't keep those in check. So same thing. A mindset is the same thing. I have a friend of mine who's going through a very ugly divorce, and her ex, like put her in financial part. And so that's another aspect that I'll just touch on real quick if I can is
Yeah,
like,
of course.
so I've had some financial issues, being misdiagnosed, like, damn, like, I mean, with the medical bills and stuff like that. And so I'm actually creating a program, a nonprofit. I'm hoping to launch it in March as soon as I can get it ready. I've just started having the meetings where it's actually going very well. But we have these things in life where people are like giving handouts. We got to look at like the reason why some of these people give handouts and they only give people temporary help. And so I see these viral videos all the time and they're like, "Oh, here you're homeless, like here I'm going to give you a pizza, a slice of pizza." Like that's a temporary fix. Now, is that because of they're doing it for themselves or are they really doing it for those people? And so I like to call things hand ups. A hand up is if someone's on the ground, I extend my hand and I'm picking them up. I'm putting them up where they can stand. And so I'm actually looking to create this program to give people some financial flexibility through um, some, debt relief or some, medical bill relief or something like that. So that's the program I'm looking to build. It's what I call my legacy program. I want it to be something that stays for a long time and way past me, but I want to put that mindset into other people. So I'm glad you've asked me that and I could tie that in because that's something that's near and dear my heart. So
Fantastic. Dwayne, thank you so much. Is there anything else you want to share?
Uh, no. I think we covered most of it. So I will tell people if you want to like know when show up to win .com when it launches, I have a website so you can put your email address, little, one of those things, you put your phone number in and, you might even actually get a phone call from me. I might just like, I don't know. Sometimes I just do that kind of thing. But it's under showuptowin.info. So showuptowin.info.
.info.
Yep.
And who is the goat of self-help? According to Dwayne Morton, who is the goat of self-help?
So I will tell you that there's the people who most people say are the goats of self help. They didn't do stuff for me. So my goats of self help are different. So like I'll tell you this, Brianna Wiest's books have been um very helpful for me. For me, my friend's one of the experts of quantum healing. So I would put Victoria Rader up there with a lot of people. So I'm just gonna say like I roll with the people that help me. And so um Victoria Rader is absolutely been the person for me. If I got to say who's the GOAT, and she runs with people like Dr. Joe Vitale. So, I'm in a good place. I'm getting
Nah,
really good information.
you know, I can't believe I thought you were going to go a split because I mean, it's funny because there's certain things that I hear and I'm like, oh, that's a Tony Robbins thing, or that's a somebody else thing, or somebody else thing, and then I read another book and I'm like, oh no, it's not. It's from so like Tony Robbins was quoting who was it he was quoting? Because I was a big fan of Eckhart Tolle.
He's always quoting someone else. That's the thing is so
Everybody always is. And
yes.
Eckhart Tolle was actually because I read an ancient Buddhist book, Buddhist book, and I was like, oh my god, Eckhart Tolle was quoting that. So we're all quoting somebody else, but it doesn't matter. It's what becomes part of us, and it comes. Everybody's always ready to listen to someone, and if you're that person, and it doesn't matter where you are in life, we're those people that just help people to build their own playbook. See what I did there
So
for you?
absolutely. So one thing, Cuddy, is what I feel is, and this is the great thing about self help, is that we talk about it in a different way. And guess what? How we talk about it in a different way is going to resonate with another person in a different way. So whether it's Tony Robbins, whether it's John Maxwell, all these leadership. So I'm a really big leadership. Tim Grover's book Relentless was I mean, I don't know him personally, but like I've known about Tim Grover for a long time since he's been a trainer for Michael Jordan and Kobe Bryant. So I think you can take a lot of different aspects from different people, but also like there's some basketball coaches that like really help me with my mindset. I have there's a guy who had a really big impact on me. His name was Don Meyer, and he has a book, and like he told me he was like one of the biggest things that he told me was like whether you believe you can or you can't, you're right. And
That's,
like that had the
that
biggest
is
impact on
Henry Ford.
I don't remember who quoted it, but like it was the first time I heard it as a kid, and I
And
was like,
that's it. You'll always
oh
remember the person, right?
yes, and that's what I was gonna say is like it might not have been that person who said, "Hey, this is the path." It doesn't matter. That's the point. The point is you got the information,
Yeah,
and
man.
so
And you
yeah,
never, when you're stuck in that victim mindset, you're just not ready to hear it. And it's an old Buddha quote: "Is Buddha was always there, you just weren't ready to listen." And people only listen when the lily opens up, and
right.
that's the lily of ourselves, our life. And I think that's really really powerful for people that is like, oh well, I've missed out on all my life for not being able to work on those things. It's like, no, you just weren't ready. Once you're ready, you'll soar. You'll soar like Michael Jordan and Dwayne Morton. That's what it'll
Oh,
be. I can feel it already. Thank you so much for being on the podcast, Dwayne. I'll wrap up now. As always, big love from Cuddy. And please, please, please remember, if it's in the mind, it can be managed. And make your mind a priority. The second you start making your mind a priority, you will start elevating in life. So this was How to Show Up to Win with Dwayne Morton. Build your own playbook. Absolutely fantastic. Say goodbye, Dwayne.
thank you so much for Cuddy. Thank you so much for the listeners for giving me the opportunity to take a part of your day.
Cheers. Big love from Cuddy.
Cheers.
We'll see you on the next one.